Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. This is another paid request, this time for Jose Ballard, and it is for The Amazing Spider-Man 2012. For those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reactions, reviews, re-reviews, anything in between, just send them either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. So down below in the info box. Now, I don't know if this will be a rant or not because when I look at this film compared to films of today, like Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Captain Marvel, like superhero films of today, it's not as bad compared to them. But if I have to be true to myself, am I really a fan of the film? No. No, so I'm really not. And maybe what it is, the thing is I've had issues with like all Spider-Man films. Spider-Man 2, like Sam Raimi's film, I do like, but it still has that either have the campy feel. I'm not really into campy. Can be done fun, but in that film, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I like Superman 3 camp, not so much Sam Raimi's camp. I know it's confusing. It's just my own personal preference. But Spider-Man 2, I still think is good. I don't know how to put it. Like, it seems like with Spider-Man movies, like when they're telling their whole story, it's like they rush it. What I mean by that, I think a Spider-Man story, to be properly told, you need time. And that's why I've come to realize you need time. And that's why I think the cartoons, the even the 2000, the short-lived MTV cartoon, the one cartoon, was it the Spectacular Spider-Man, I believe, that I reviewed, which I did enjoy. The Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s. To me, those are the best representation of Spider-Man because they're given room to breathe. Where you're given room to really develop the character. And because with Spider-Man, if you're going back to where he's in high school, which I'm like, can you stop doing that? Can you maybe, if you want to be different and unique, have him be an adult and already be Spider-Man for a bit, and he's going through the trials of being in his 30s while trying to do this. I would like to see that take on it, but what do I know? But they always start anew, and then they just go through kind of the same basics you've already seen time and time again. But then they start to rush it because all the stuff you gotta do with Spider-Man, gaining his powers, with great power comes great responsibility, death of Uncle Ben, trying to figure out what to do, trying to find his place in life, trying to figure out the balance between work, home, high school, if that's the case, Aunt May, whatever girlfriend it may be, love story, all that jazz melded into it. Being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, take on local crooks and thugs, going up to the upper levels of his own villains. That stuff takes time, but then it's like we don't have time, we gotta rush it. Sam Raimi Spider-Man, he's in high school, but in the next movie, boom, he's already in college. And in the next movie, boom, we got like three fucking villains. We got go. And then, there's the whole thing with Mary Jane. Here, it's like, okay, you're building up Spider-Man, and you got the origin story, you got the Lizard, you got Gwen Stacy, you got Uncle Ben dying, you got looking for the guy who killed Uncle Ben, but then you don't follow through on that because we gotta get to the Lizard because that's more dangerous, and we almost forget about the Uncle Ben killer. I don't even know if they did that in the sequel. I can't remember. Because the sequel they try to do, okay, we got the Lizard, we got this, because we need the Sinister Six. Even this one, this new Spider-Man. Yeah, Far From Home, and now you don't have Doctor Strange, and maybe Tobey Maguire, maybe Andrew Garfield, the Sinister Six, and maybe this, and then the multiverse. It's like, even if you start off small, it's like, we gotta rush it, because we only got 2-3 movies. Again, if that's the case, then maybe a cartoon is the best avenue for Spider-Man to properly tell his story. Maybe I'm alone in that. Maybe I'm being a fool on that. But it seems like lately that's been the case. Where the cartoons, to me, have been more of a, not accurate, but more of a enjoyable interpretation of Spider-Man than the movies. At least, again, that's my take on it. So, you once again go through the origin of Spider-Man, which you didn't need. I think that's one thing when Marvel took Spider-Man. I thought skipping over the origin was actually the right idea. That's one thing I would give credit to, the Tom Holland Spider-Man. They skipped over the origin. I don't think you need to skip Uncle Ben as a whole, to the point you don't even mention Ben's name yet. And they kind of gave that, they kind of made Iron Man, in a way, Uncle Ben. Like, he mentions there was an uncle, but then, like, that happened. But now it's because Iron Man died, that seems like more of, I don't know. Which, at least, I mean, that's at least not doing the same thing over and over again. But I'm going off. Let's get back to this one. So, Spider-Man 3 team up with Sam Raimi, it bombed. Well, it didn't bomb. It did make money. It actually did make a lot of money. It cost a lot of money, but it did make money. But it got a lot of critical derailment, a lot of fan derailment. And there were talks of Sam Raimi doing Spider-Man 4. In fact, I think Tobey Maguire said it was like, what, a week or two? Like, it was pretty short that they were going to start filming, and the studio, I guess, because of Spider-Man 3, and, you know, we've done 3 movies now, you know, I don't know the details, pretty much, nah, we're not going to do that anymore. So then a couple years later, they reboot it. So they hire, you know, Andrew Garfield. They hire this guy, what, was it Mark Webb? Or is that the guy who does the new ones? I can't remember the director of this. I really cannot remember the director. And the movie is just... Spider-Man himself, at least, is attempting a bit more of that humor compared to Tobey Maguire. And that's, to me, more appropriate as Spider-Man. At least when I see Spider-Man move during action scenes, I'm like, okay, I can see that's how Spider-Man would move in the comics. During his action scenes with the Lizard. Like the Stan Lee cameo when he's got the headphones, and in the background you see the way Spider-Man moves and using the web. That feels like Spider-Man movement-wise. I gotta keep reminding myself this is more about the Ultimate Spider-Man comic, which I was not a reader of. I didn't read much of any of Ultimate Spider-Man. So the Peter Parker is basing off of is that one, not the comics I grew up with. Because I grew up with Spider-Man comics back in the day. In the 80s, early 90s. Like the time where you had Maximum Carnage storyline. And even some of the 80s, like that's the Spider-Man stuff I read. When he was a man. And not it's but they always do like Spider-Boy. That's what they'd be called, Spider-Boy, the Amazing Spider-Boy, Spider-Boy Homecoming, Spider-Boy Far From Home. When can I see the man? That's one of the things I liked about Into the Spider-Verse. Which to me, I would say that's the best Spider-Man film made. In my opinion, is Into the Spider-Verse. But you would say Spider-Man 2. Yeah, I don't mind Spider-Man 2, but for me, I think the Spider-Verse movie was the best Spider-Man movie to be made. And that's just my opinion. So this one is more of like a skateboarder outcast. And they're doing the origin story so you know what's coming. They try to add new stuff, but it's the stuff with Peter Parker's parents having a secret. I have to go. What is it? And they try to explain it in the sequel about the parents, but I think even people who like the film, they don't give a shit about this parent stuff. And maybe if they stuck to the landing and they made it interesting or creative or crazy or heartfelt, maybe it could work, but it was none of those things. It was just filler. Lame, boring, uninteresting filler. And no one really gave a shit. Even people who liked the film, I never heard them say, I like the parent stuff. No, they give a shit about it. Now, Sally Field is Aunt May, Martin Sheen is Uncle Ben. I don't mind them. I think that's actually decent casting. I do think Cliff Robertson was a better Uncle Ben, but Martin Sheen works. Sally Field, I thought she's not in it much, Sally, but the screen time she had, it was nice. The thing with Peter Parker, I guess it's up to your own interpretation of Peter Parker, how you want to view Peter Parker. How I view Peter Parker, he's a guy that is an outsider, he's ostracized, he's a guy that a lot of us can relate to, where he was kind of the common kid who would be picked on and he couldn't get the girls, or the girls didn't notice him much, and he's just trying to do the best in school. Here, this is a guy whose haircut is kind of like the guy in Twilight. His face, I don't see how any of the girls would now want to hook up with Andrew Garfield. Because he's a good-looking guy. He's a good-looking guy. Why would the girl, I mean, they'd be falling over for Andrew Garfield, so I don't really buy that at all. Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, I actually liked her. She was a lot better than Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane, because she was so unlikable, so fucking cringe-inducingly spiteful, in my opinion, in those Sam Raimi films. I hated her character to her core. Emma Stone, at least, she gave a good performance. She was likable, endearing. I will say, though, their conversations, it seemed like a lot of fumbling of words. It got it once. Maybe you could do that, but when like every conversation happened with that, fumble words and meandering words, I'm like, get to the fucking point. Stop fumbling, meandering. It's like people trying to do ad-lib and trying to think of what to say next. Get to the fucking point. So that annoyed me. Granted, it's still a romance more than the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, because I'm not a fan of Tobey Maguire. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of him. He looked 30 when he was in high school anyway, and I don't buy him. I definitely didn't buy him as Spider-Man. The few attempts at humor I thought were awful, whether in terms of his acting or the dialogue written, just really campy, corny. And this is kind of a guy that likes Superman 3. Even I thought it was campy and corny. So I don't know, that's just me. So, the parent stuff, uninteresting. Never follow through in this movie. Doesn't go anywhere in this movie. They just save it because they're hoping to get a franchise. Which they got a sequel, and then the franchise was dead. Then meet Dr. Connors. And this scene was really weird, even back when I first saw it. I went, so he steals a badge, intern, and it's so easy. She just goes, the person at the desk, are you here for the tour? Pick out your badge. Okay, now go ahead. Like, that's how fucking easy it is? I could just go up and be like, thank you. And that's it. No photo ID. Show me your license. Nothing. Like student license, some type of photo ID, some type of identification. No. Just take it and leave. Take it and go. Anybody could have taken it. I'm like, and then he like easily sneaks through. It's supposed to be this high-tech lab of expensive shit. I guess there's no cameras. There's no security. There's nobody around. This is a gigantic fucking room with like a million spiders and this web stuff. And there's no one around. There's no workers. There's no security guard. There's nobody. Hire my friend Fabio. Have him be fucking security in this place. At least he would stop people and be on the fucking case. What the shit? Does I have a friend, really good guy Fabio. He used to work security. Well, he still works security now. That'd be the best way to put it. But yeah, like at a mall, he was a security guard. And he would at least, do his job. There's like no one around to do the job. I don't know why I sounded drunk. Maybe it's the liquor talking. Except there's no liquor, so that even more worse for me. So he's once bitten, twice shy, babe. I thought it was cute that he doesn't know his strength and he's breaking the faucet and the doorknob. I actually thought that's a good scene to showcase his strength. But then, and I know other Spider-Man films have done this, and I've had an issue with that as well, where he'll do stuff so fucking obvious to anyone who's not blind, like he flies 80 feet, slams, he gets like 80 feet across, 5 feet high, slams the basketball, and it explodes as if a neutron bomb happened, and no one thinks that's a bit fucking weird. He literally flew. Yeah, there'd be something a bit weird. They just brush it off as if it's nothing. Other Spider-Man films have done that. I have issues with that too. I have issues with that too. Just like if it's a fantastical idea and you're trying to make people believe in it, when you do stuff like that, it takes away the escapism factor of, come on, don't treat me like a fucking moron. Don't treat me like an idiot. Emma Stone, Andrew Garfield, is a lot of fumble, meandering words. I do think there is chemistry with each other. I do. But I think the dialogue seems to have been a lot better. And they got... To be honest, I got a bit bored after a bit with this stuff. So then it gets to a point where he's trying to buy some milk, and the asshole at the counter is like, "You owe me 2 cents." So he takes the, take a penny, leave a penny. No, you can't do that. That's what the fuck is there for, though. So the guy gets butthurt over 2 cents. Then a guy robs it, and it'll be like, okay, fine, it's not my problem. Guy wants to be that much of a dick, fine. So then the robber bumps into Uncle Ben, drops his gun, and for some reason Uncle Ben decides and go for the gun. And I'm like, why'd you do that? You're not a cop. You're not a police officer. You're not fucking Liam Neeson from Taken. Leave him the fuck alone. He pretty much tries to dive for the gun. I just trying to be a good Samaritan. And gets killed for his stupidity. And you don't get a lot of Aunt May. You would think after the death of Uncle Ben, I mean, there's maybe like 2 scenes, if that. Not a whole lot with Aunt May. There's one bit with Flash Thompson is interesting, but they don't really do anything further with it. Where after the death, Flash Thompson's trying to talk to him. So Andrew Garfield like shoves him against the locker, and Flash goes, "Feels better, right? Feels good, right? I did it. I'm sorry." Now, I don't remember if he really delved into, like, his father died or anything like that. Seemed like, okay, that could be something really interesting, but nothing's really done of it. It's like they build up stuff and they don't follow through with it. Just they're hoping that the second, the third, the fourth one, they'll be able to do it. So like the parent stuff, they bring it up, save it for later. The Flash Thompson, you think they're going to go further with it? No, maybe save it for later. The reason he becomes Spider-Man is for revenge. Which some people have an issue with it. I think that's understandable. Because, he becomes Spider-Man, great power, great responsibility. Him being revenge, that's understandable to me. I'm fine with that different direction. That I think that's a relatable anger people could have. The death of you have these powers, a death of a loved one, you want to fucking kick some ass. That's understandable. That's an understandable gesture. But what made the original comic more impactful was the realization of, that's the guy who killed my uncle, and then he realizes, oh my god, that's the guy I let go. Then that gives a sobering effect of cause and effect. What I need to do and what I need to do that's better. That's what makes that impactful. That's what makes that. And I will say, I do think Sam Raimi's film did that better, because they took that from the comic. Again, it's that realization and that wrenching moment of, oh my god, it is my fault. You don't get that in this. He already, I mean, like they try to do it and then he goes out for revenge, but it just doesn't work out as impactful as it could have. And then he doesn't catch the guy. He's in the middle of catching the guy. He's going to these people, beating up some people up. Doesn't seem like he really ties those people up or gets them arrested either. It kind of just lets them go, even though they're still criminals. And yet there's a bit with the car thief where he's, strings him up. Almost makes him suffocate, which that's a bit fucking far. When you don't know if this is the guy, he's almost suffocating. It's like... And then Gwen Stacy's dad, played by Dennis Leary, which is nice to see Dennis Leary. And then pretty much that's forgotten because the Lizard is doing this stuff, and they kind of come across each other almost randomly on a bridge, where the Lizard's doing stuff on a bridge. There's Spider-Man. He saves a couple people. He saves a kid. And I guess it's really saving the kid, where he's like, I'm going to start helping people. It's because he saves his kid. Which is fine, but again, it's not as impactful as the source material. You get what I mean? Because there are positives to the film. Andrew Garfield, it's not my preferred interpretation of Peter Parker. Because again, to me, this is a guy that, he's gotten girls. Betty Brant, which I think was his first girlfriend, then Gwen Stacy. But he doesn't seem as nerdy, which you would think, but he is going for the ultimate spot. Again, like I said, it's not my interpretation of Peter Parker. Andrew Garfield's, in being fair, it's not that bad acting-wise. When I watched it again, Andrew Garfield's not that bad acting-wise. I think he had a clunky script. I don't know why they chose his director. I don't even remember who the director was, but I'm like, why did you choose this director? This director, plus you have an underwhelming score. Sorry, I was talking about positives. I like Dennis Leary as Captain Stacy. I think they should not have killed him off so quickly. I think Dennis Leary could have been a... And then they try to do this weird thing in the sequel where he keeps seeing this ghost disapproving. I'm like, that's fucking weird. But Dennis Leary was good. Emma Stone was good. Andrew Garfield, in retrospect, wasn't that bad. And being fair, he wasn't that bad. But just so many other issues with telling the same origin story. It wasn't that interesting. It was boring, and the changes to the source idea makes it less impactful. The costume sucks. I think this is the worst Spider-Man costume in a live-action movie. Well, I'll take that back. The worst one for me, I hate the Iron Spider shit and the new stuff. Where he has a suit, has like fucking all these arms coming out. I hate that shit so badly, man. I hate what they've done. Because I like Tom Holland. I like his interpretation of Peter Parker Spider-Man. I hate what they're doing with this fucking Iron Spider shit. I hate that shit. I do. I hate that shit. I hate the fucking suit with all the Iron Man shit on it. I hate that. That's that Spider-Man to me. Again, personal preference. That's that Spider-Man to me. And even one of the posters is like, is that fucking stupid suit. That's the worst suit to me. But the second worst suit is this one. I think it looks awful. It looks garbage. I don't care what it's based on. I think it looks awful. I think the suit in the second film is actually better. The score is very underwhelming. James Horner did the score, and it's one of his least successful scores. I love James Horner. He did use a lot of his own shit, granted. But, I love Aliens, Braveheart, the score for that. He did a good job. It's not my favorite composer, Jerry Goldsmith, Hans Zimmer, John Carpenter. But I do like James Horner. But this was bad. The score for the second film, I've warmed up to. The score for the second movie, I have very much warmed up to. Because I was caught off guard with the score. I'm like, wow, okay, this is different. But if I listen to the score of the second film, I'm like, this is actually rather good. Music. But yeah, the costume sucks. I think the dialogue is a bit clunky at times. The pace is fairly boring. It's over long, too. It's over 2 hours long. Like 2 hours and 15 minutes or so. The origin is just not that interesting to see again. But done to less impact. Dr. Connor's Lizard, I don't think works as a primary villain. Maybe if you did like a horror film, horror action film, you had like a David Fincher type of director, maybe that'd be interesting. But that's not what they do here. Instead, the Lizard, I know that's the way he looked at the very, very early comics, but I'm not a fan of the look of the Lizard. I liked it in the comics when the Lizard looked more with the elongated snout. And yeah, I know when the Lizard first appeared, he was more of the flat face. He kind of looks like what Killer Croc was in the Suicide Squad. The first one. But just, I don't care for the effects of the Lizard. I think they could have done more with practical suit. I think you could have done that. Especially with the technology and the budget. But they just do it all CGI, and I don't think it looks that great. And then again, the design, I prefer more of the Lizard that I would see in the 80s, where the snout was longer. Like with Todd McFarlane, how he would draw the Lizard. Like, I prefer that look of the Lizard. That's what I prefer. I think that would have been a better look to it. And then it's... Yes, I know this is part of the comics plot at times, but it's still... Not everything has to be taken from the comics. I'm going to turn the city into lizards. It comes off as goofy. No matter how you do it, it'll come off as goofy. Now, if you're doing it, and you're doing it with, like, practical creatures... Even Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, there's a hallucination scene where Johnny Depp sees all these lizards, like these dinosaur lizards. That was done practical. And that was a comedy. If you do it like that, and Spider-Man had to fight them, you could do some fun action scenes where all these lizard people, as goofy as that sounds, but maybe if you had to go into that, pop, 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 but no. They're turned to lizards, and then that's off camera. Until the very end. Oh, by the way, we got this tear. I guess they're back to normal. The lizard looks like a Goomba from the Super Mario Brothers movie. That's what he kind of looks like. So I didn't care for the villain. I thought Dr. Kirk Connors, I don't think it was developed well. Like, you get the idea, he wants his arm, but he just came off as a very boring, lame villain. Maybe the lizard works as a secondary villain. Maybe for a movie that you could use two villains. You can do it well. Batman Returns did that. With the two villains. Batman Returns did that fairly well. Spider-Man 3 St. Raimi. Maybe if you didn't try to do the fucking wedding ring and Osborn and all the Green Goblin, all the other shit. A Sandman. Maybe a Sandman. Not Venom. Could be like Sandman and Scorpion. Or Sandman and Lizard. That's could be the first. Sandman Lizard. Like that maybe could work. But not Venom. Venom deserves his own movie. But anyway, again, that's another thing. And he did really stupid plot points. Like in the sewer. The lizard finds the camera Peter Parker had, and it has his fucking name on the back of the fucking camera. Because how else is he going to know this is Peter Parker? Oh, he just has a camera. Which I don't remember why he has a camera for. Because he doesn't work for the newspaper yet. Was it for the school pictures? Why does he have a camera? Now I'm trying to think. Because he doesn't work for the newspaper. There is no Jonah Jameson in these movies. So, at least as far as I remember, why does he have the camera? Why did he have the camera? I can't remember now. I seriously can't remember. It was stupid of him to have a camera down in the first place. But then, if you don't put a camera down there, don't put your fucking name on the back of it. Property of Peter Parker. You might as well tattoo dumb fuck on your forehead. Yet the school fight, there's some good choreography. As in Spider-Man, the way he moves, I can see Spider-Man moving like that. Although, yes, heavily CGI. I don't know if you can do that practically with the way Spider-Man moves. I don't know, that'd be very difficult. But I would say that's probably the best scene in the movie is the school fight. I probably would say that's the best scene in the movie. I probably would. Oh, C. Thomas Howell from the original The Hitcher from 1986. Soul Man, for those who remember that. He's in the film because it was his kid who Spider-Man saved. And then later, he's got to get to Oscorp building because the lizard's going to create this thing to turn the whole city into lizards. And this scene always... This is like the scene I remember when I first saw it, I went, get the fuck out of here. This is a rant. This scene's like, get the fuck out of here with this. Get the fuck out. Because it's... How do I put it? It's C. Thomas Howell getting all the other workers to turn their fucking cranes that thankfully they're all next to each other. Thankfully they're in the right distance. Thankfully everybody did their job. Thankfully everybody listened to C. Thomas Howell. And so that Spider-Man can swing and get to the fucking building. And I'm like, I know Spider-Man's hurt, but why don't you just go lower and swing? You just go lower and swing. You escape the cops. You move faster than the cops. Like, there's buildings. You swing on this side, you swing on this side, you swing on this side, you swing on this side. Light poles, whatever. You could do that too. Or at least a little bit until you get to higher heights. The higher of the heights. I just... It seemed like just another one of those... The city has to have their part. It's kind of like in Sam Raimi Spider-Man films when... In Spider-Man 2, remember when the whole... all the people on the train tried to stand up to Doc Ock? You want him? You gotta get through me. Or the people on the bridge throwing shit at Green Goblin in the first Spider-Man Sam Raimi film. It's like they try to do their version of that in this. You didn't need that, though. Or if that's the case, don't that see that was how the whole worker stuff, how it would be like, Spider-Man's hurt, and he's got to calculate with his mind, because he's supposed to be smart. He's smart enough to make these fucking web shooters calculate, and this is his moment to shine. This is his hero moment to push through the pain. And get that good moment, kind of like in the comics, where there's a comic called, there was a Juggernaut story. His Aunt May is sick, and he needs to get this medicine to her, and he's under all this stuff. It's like, that moment with he overpowers and shows his tenacity, his never give up attitude, where no one can help him but himself. That kind of opportunity, but it just turns to a goofball fucking fest. So that he'd have this lame fight, which now anytime I see this, I think of the Ninja Turtles 2014 film, because they're on top of a building, and you find the bad guy, and then the fucking... Because this fucking thing is gonna go up to the sky and fuck everything up, and then the fucking tower goes like this, and falls. Does that... The Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtles of 2014 stole the ending from this movie. And it wasn't that good of an ending in the first place. It's pretty much Spider-Man moving along the outside the building, blocking shots. Pretty much escaping the lizard, put the vial in the thing, switch it up, so that was the cure. And the cure falls onto the lizard as well, and they all fall, and then Dr. Connors grabs him, pulls him up. Captain Stacy's been stabbed, he dies, he says, promise me, stay away from Gwen for her safety. Okay. Okay, USA. Then at the end, 5 minutes later, when the teacher's like, you don't make promises you can't keep. And then he whispers to Gwen, but those are the best kind. Meaning, yeah, I'd have to promise to your dad, but I'm still going to try to fuck you anyway. Still going to get some of that poontang pie for my spider daddy. Which makes it even worse because it led to her death in the fucking second movie. That stupid shit with the fucking web. The literal web turns to a hand. I still remember that. He shot the web for Gwen Stacy and it turned to a fucking hand. Because that film, they try to put everything. You have the rhino, the stupid thing with the kid. Then Electro, then Osborn, then the death of Gwen Stacy, the build up of the Sinister Six. You try to do too much and that always fails. And it seems like they're doing it again with this one. This new one. Oh, it's going to be the end of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Because that's the word, is that this is the end of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He's not going to do any more Spider-Man movies. Which I'm like, really? God, short shelf life. To reboot it? For another young Spider-Man? Again? Can we ever have one time where Spider-Man becomes an actual adult and a man? Is that against the law? And then Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Sinister Six and Doctor Strange and Multiverse and oh my god, people know I'm Spider-Man. Oh my god, how am I going to change that? Oh my god, I sound like John Travolta. Oh my god, oh my god. So this movie, it still sucks. It still sucks in my opinion. Poor action scenes, except for maybe the school fight. Bad costume, bad music. The dialogue between Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield is like fumbling, meandering stuff that there's decent chemistry there, but just the dialogue, there's nothing to it. An origin story that's not as impactful as it could have been. A villain that's pretty lame. Poor effects. Didn't care for the designs. I would prefer. A lot of stuff, like the Flash Thompson stuff, the parent stuff, Uncle Ben's killer, we dropped that because we're not worried about the lizard. Stuff dropped, so maybe it's later. Stupid fucking conveniences, like the camera just happens to have Peter Parker's name in the back of it. All that shit and more. Can't believe I talked about it for 40 fucking minutes, holy shit. I'm not a fan of the film. I'm still not a fan of the film. So to each their own. With that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.